everyone. Thanks for joining. It's going to be hard to follow that act, but I'll try. I'm Iman, Director of Technical Marketing and Reference Architecture Labs at Seagate. I'm going to talk about, let me try not to block the view as well. Yeah. I'm going to talk about how we work with Veeam together and actually address the backup, recovery, and ransomware at large scale for big data. So let's jump into it pretty fast. One interesting fact, I think everybody agrees that data is growing, right? That's nothing new. But it's growing at an amazing pace. I mean, let me give you some stats, which is crazy. By 2025, we're going to look at about 175 zettabyte of data being generated every year. I mean, it's a crazy amount of data. And then on top of that, think about how much people are storing nowadays. We are at Seagate shipping an exabyte of storage every 30 minutes. I mean, that's just mind-blowing, right? Now, with that, it comes its own challenges. So think about, you have a few terabytes of data, backing that up, protecting that is easy. But protecting petabytes and tens of petabytes of data is not. And that's where you got to think about multiple things. You got to think about your disaster recovery strategy. How do you do it? Where do you put your data? How do you move it between those locations? You got to think about security. The more data you have, the more attacks you're going to get, right? The hackers are going to want to access that. They want to get into your data. They want to change it. They want to take it. They want to take it hostage. So you got to now think about a wider area of attack with more data and how you approach it. And then finally is scaling. And this is where, honestly, I've spent most of my career in designing and architecting big data storage, and scaling stuff is hard. It'll work when you do a couple of nodes, but then when you do multi-scale, something breaks. So making that easy, making it something that is repeatable is very important. And that's really where we get together and make sure that we have solutions that we can address these problems for you in a simpler way. And I'll go through it. I'll go through the products, but before I go through the product, let's look at this rule of thumb. I love it. They call it the data protection zip code, 32110. What it means is, if you want to come up with a simple plan for your data, how to back it up, how to make sure that it's actually protected from ransomware, is stick with this. This is a good practice. At least you want 3 different copies of data. You want it in 2 different media, and then you want one of those copies to be offsite copy. And then our friends here at Veeam, of course, go one level further and say, hey, if you care about ransomware, you want to make sure that you can trust your data. So make one of those copies air-gapped or immutable, and then make sure that you don't get any errors during backup jobs, right? Run them continuously. Actually do testing in sandboxes and make sure that there are no errors across your VMs and everything's working fine. So, sounds easy, right? And honestly, I've seen this in practice. If you stick to it, you get good results. But of course, implementation is always harder. So I'm just going to explore a proposed architecture with you. Let's say we want to do this. How do we achieve it? It's not ours, maybe one is a colo, but we do 2 local copies, 2 on-prem copies. So we're going to need some hardware for that. And then having a cloud that is immutable is also good, right? So let's assume that you do a backup to cloud. And then you need something to really run this for you, right? You don't want to do this, you don't want to copy and paste, right? So you need a backup software. And of course, that's where Veeam has excelled over the years and we partner with and qualify our storage with. But I'm going to spend some time on the Seagate products today, and I'm sure all of you guys actually know Seagate from hard drives, maybe on the storage, but we make more than half of the world's storage. So, and we actually make more than hard drives. So I'm going to talk about a few of those and how it fits in this architecture. I'm going to talk about Exos Core Vault and Exos Extend. These are our on-prem solutions. We have a wide array of on-prem solutions, DAS, SAN, but this is exciting, and I'll tell you why. It's actually, I'm going to narrow it out a little bit, so bear with me. And then from a cloud perspective, there are lots of cloud storage. You probably need it in your backup strategy and disaster recovery strategy. But let's figure out how we can help with that. And I'll talk about Live Cloud, which is our storage S3 storage as an offering, as a service. So let's dive into it. On-prem, what do you need? And what is this Exos Core Vault I'm talking about? And I'm really excited about this product. This has been in the works for many years, and it's, on the surface, what is it? It's a big storage. It's a 4U box. It's self-healing. It protects your data. It has erasure coding inside the box to make sure that your data is protected. It has self-encryption. And on top of that, it's one of the densest storage boxes in the market. You can fit 2.2 petabytes in it right now, and it goes up from there. I think next year we're going to hit about 3 petabytes. plus in a single box. So just like one of these boxes in your data center, I'm pretty sure it's going to cover a lot of use cases. It's very reliable. We designed it with redundancies that is hot swappable everything, so you can like really service it. But ideally, you don't actually have to service as much, because with some of these self-healing technologies that we embedded into our intelligent controllers, it automatically does it for you. And you basically, we call it, it makes your life dull, hopefully. You don't have to think about it much. And while it brings you all of this stuff, it also gives you a very easy access to management. So we have a GUI, CLI, API. You could integrate it into your application if you want. You could just like sit behind the GUI and go through it. It's very easy, very simple GUI. Actually, Joy here has designed it. She's one of our product designers, and it's an awesome product. But why should you care about it? So it's another storage box, right? This is why you should care about it, and I'm going to digress for a couple of minutes. When you think about the hard drive technology, they're growing, right? They're getting bigger every year, right? You see it coming, right? 20 terabyte is out there, 30 terabyte is very close. I actually have it running in our labs. But it's not just the capacity of the drive. Actually, new features are getting introduced in some of these drives that you don't ever hear about. These features, they're going to help you reduce costs, right? At the end of the day, they're there to improve performance, user experience, and reduce your TCO. But more often than not, it doesn't get used because you still have to spend some effort integrating that into your software stack, into your SDS stack. And that's the challenge, right? Because we see all of our big CSPs, the cloud vendors, the MSPs, they're taking advantage of these features because they have resources, they have engineers, they throw it at it, they do the integration, and everything works flawlessly. But what about the rest of the people? And at Seagate, this is why we designed this product. We want to get these out to everybody else, and we want everyone to use it. That's why we created Core Vault, which has intelligent storage that comes and really takes care of these new features for you and transparently exposes it up to the host stack. So the host doesn't have to change. The software doesn't have to change. The only thing that changes is that we add a layer of intelligence into the box, and it really passes up to you. And it's fascinating. I'm gonna tell you about one of the features that just recently came out to kind of like maybe blow your mind. We call it ADR, Autonomous Drive Regeneration. And the idea behind it is that if you have a 20 terabyte drive and that fails, that's a big failure domain. You lost 20 terabyte of space. But more often than not, you can actually bring it back up as an 18 terabyte drive because it's only a head failure. So nowadays we can do that. We can actually regenerate the drive, take it offline, reformat it, and bring it back up as a healthy drive that is smaller. So it becomes more granular. You can control the head level. All of that is great, but again, if your software is not taking advantage of that, what's the point? That's why we're very excited about Core Vault. It's going to push these features. The TCO is going to pass to the customers. And again, we're going to have the biggest and the best drives in this moving forward, always the biggest capacity. So if you want your highest capacity, highest density, this is really the way to go for on-prem. But how about cloud? Let's talk about cloud now. Cloud storage is great. It should be part of your backup strategy. I think, like the offsite copy totally makes sense. Usually having, like, you have 2 on-prem copies that you manage, and the 3rd copy, you put it in the cloud. But why are we special, and what are we doing in the cloud space? Well, we make most of the storage in the market, so we figured we should probably have a cloud storage offering too. And that's where Live Cloud was born a couple of years ago. The idea behind it is that to make it simple, and simple I mean, let's stick with all the standards. It has an S3 API. You could use it in your environment like any other S3 object storage. It has immutable functionality. But on top of that, it has transparent pricing. Flat dollar per terabyte, no egress fees. So you don't have to care about egress fees, API cost. All of those unexpected things that shows up on the cloud bill is not going to show up here. And that's part of our strategy. We want to make it simple for people to build a holistic solution to keep their data and protect their data, right? That's what Seagate is about. And of course, everything I'm presenting here is Veeam ready. So we go through, in our labs, we go through the pain of making sure everything works together, testing it, so when it hits your hand, you know it's going to work, and you don't have to spend a lot of time figuring that out. Now, to pull it back together, with the on-prem solutions we have, with the cloud plus Veeam, you have your holistic disaster recovery and ransomware protection. And the good news is that you're not locked into it, right? If you think about it, all of these building blocks here are agnostic. You could add any Veeam-ready object storage behind this. You could do iterations on it. You could scale in different clouds. So it's a true multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. And that's a buzzword. Everybody uses it, right? But it is, right? You have multiple locations, multiple places. You're using multiple different clouds. And then at the end of the day, what you get is a disaster recovery and ransomware protection solution that just works, right? And you don't have to worry about it and stay up every night. So that's really all I had. I went through it pretty fast. Happy to answer any questions if you guys have. I'll be around. But we're also doing a raffle. If you scan this QR code and register, then we'll do the tickets and everything. And we have a 2 terabyte passport drive for you to give out. Thanks, everyone.